Hi guys, it's Cody and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be the final part of how I made my Jennie solo outfit from Blackpink, and today I'm going to cover how I made the shorts and the dress. First, I'm going to briefly touch on the shorts. One thing to keep in mind about this cosplay was that I started working on this outfit before the pandemic started, and unfortunately, all of my footage before the pandemic has been lost, so I just kind of had to work with what I have. But basically, I just followed a typical fitted shorts pattern and made it from there. You can use any fitted shorts pattern you want. I just like using this one because it has pockets! Now let's tackle the dress. Jennie's dress is actually a real designer piece, so in addition to grabbing screenshots from her performance, I also grabbed pictures of the dress itself. I used this McCall's pattern as a base for it, and then made a mock-up out of muslin. I then transferred it to my real fabric, which was a red cotton sateen, and it looks something like this. A few things I want to highlight in the details is this pleated twisted knot in the front, and this bow in the back. And although the original dress design closes with a zipper, I decided to use hook and eye instead. Okay, onto the ruffles on the shoulder, and I actually have some footage this time. I measured out the shoulder piece first and then made a mock-up using muslin. I then recreated the shapes on pattern paper. This was done by making a half circle in the radius that I wanted, and then folding some pattern paper in half, well in this case wrapping paper, and then drawing a full circle on it. Two circles of different radiuses and lengths were cut out, and they look something like this. Doggy break time! Hey, Papa! Hello, my little baby. Okay, back to work. I cut out both circles out of cotton sateen, and then cut them out of interfacing. I then marked the wrong sides of the fabric with both layers to create guidelines for my top stitching. These lines were originally just a ½ inch apart, but upon closer inspection, I felt like they were still too far apart from each other, so I added more lines in between, which were a ½ inch apart. I then top stitched every line down, and yes, it took about as long as you think it did. Once those were done, I cut the circles open, and it was at this point that I realized that the ruffles weren't looking too, well, ruffly. So I decided to add another circle to both layers. To allow me to use the scrap fabric that I had at this point, I cut down the radius a little bit. I then sewed the new circles to the old one, and added all of the top stitching once again. Now I could finally connect both layers to each other. And to make the ruffles even more ruffly, I decided to add horsehair braid. I first sewed one side next to the seam. Then I edge stitched on the lining side, and then top stitched the other side down to the lining. After that, I ran a zigzag stitch over some embroidery floss, gathered the ruffles, and then began encasing it in some bias tape. However, my first attempt was pretty janky and I wasn't satisfied with it at all. So I switched tactics. I began making some notches in the smaller circle portion of the ruffles, and then encased that in bias tape like normal. The rest of the circles would either be gathered using the embroidery floss method, or pleated like shown here. All of that would be encased in bias tape, and would turn out looking like this. Now it's time to lay them out. I first began by pinning the longest ruffle from the back of the strap to the front. This was then top stitched down. And then I flipped the ruffle around and rolled it to the back. While the portion attached to the strap was sewn down by machine, the section attached to the bodice was sewn down by hand. And finally, the top ruffle was sewn down completely by hand. And with that, my Jennie dress was finally done. And that was it for Jennie, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed the two-part series of how I made Jennie. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, please feel free to tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to see more cosplay content from me, or if you want to see me dance, please check out my dance channel. And if you want to support me even more, please feel free to leave a donation on Ko-fi. I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, bye-bye!